Hey, what's going on, y'all? Today we're working on some fun stuff, upgrading the fuel system. As far as, I started looking into these cars, just about any vehicle on the road, performance-wise, there are three areas you need to address. The first one is probably air, intake, and exhaust. Second would be ignition, how strong your spark is. And the lastly would be fuel. Now on this car, as far as air, it's not that difficult, just bigger turbos, several different ways to mount your intake. And as far as exhaust, you can either go full single pipe, usually about 3.5 inch, or you can get dual 2.5 inch exhaust. Myself, I went ahead and went with the 3.5 just for a little bit of a weight savings. But when you get to fuel systems for our cars, that's where things start to get tricky. Our cars are GDI, gasoline direct injection, and it's kind of difficult to go over a certain amount of fuel with this type of setup. There's different roadblocks you can run into along the way. Our cars have EKP that controls, it's part of the electronic system that controls your fuel pump. If you put too big of a fuel pump in it, you can overheat it, and that'll shut down all the fun until it cools off, and then you might be able to drive the car again. Usually people that go with 5 LPH higher fuel pump usually run to that type of thing. A lot of people just stick with 455 Walbros. You can usually get away with using those without much hassle. Next issue you usually run into is your high pressure fuel pump. Those have a tendency to go out. So if your car has a lot of mileage on it and it's never been exchanged, it might be a good idea to get you a new one, even though they're on the expensive side. But it's a little bit of insurance, down the road. Next problem you'll usually run into is your injectors. There's several different revisions of the injector. The last revision, I believe, is Index 12, and those seemingly don't have too many issues. I think the original engine that I had in the car had several different indexes. It had ranging all the way from like Index 4 to like all the way to 12. I think I had like 2 12s and a bunch of different ones. I don't know how the car was even running. But so looking on the internet, I found a site, part supplier, PFS, Performance Fueling Solutions. They have several different options as far as upgrading your fuel system. Usually when you start making big power, you're going to have to move up to a 450 cc in fuel pump or bigger.
You stupid.
A lot of people run two 450s together.
21? You stupid.
Connected to a hop switch for the second fuel pump. Once you get the low pressure fuel pump taken care of, usually you have to, when you really start getting your power up there, you have to either run port injection or use some type of mechanism that overdrives your high pressure fuel pump. Something like Helix or Vargas Turbo. They have a double barrel high pressure fuel pump system that you use, I believe 2 different high pressure fuel pumps. And I believe PFS themselves have come out with their own version of the Helix. Me myself, I went ahead and got the Helix Overdrive port injection. That's got a little bit more expense to it. You have several other things you have to buy, and double barrel, I believe you have to buy 2 high pressure fuel pumps, which that's just as expensive, I guess. So let's just go over what I'm starting with for the low pressure fuel side of the system. First thing we have here is the fuel filter and fuel pressure regulator. On the normal one, there would be a fuel pressure regulator that sits in here,
and it will control your fuel pressure. But mine is modified to run an external fuel pressure regulator. So all of that's cut off. And if you had your car for a while, it probably hasn't been replaced. The fuel filter inside here is probably dirty. So I would say, if anything else, this is just regular maintenance you should take care of. And the kit also comes with a replacement gasket for when you take the fuel ring off. As you see on here, I have a pressure quick release AN fitting on there. I'm replacing all of my fuel lines, just you know, a peace of mind since I'm going to be running E85. I wanted to give a video of what the OEM fuel pressure regulator and filter unit looks like. You can see I took mine out the car. It's super dirty. This unit right here, that's your stock fuel pressure regulator. And you see it has several lines, and if I remember correctly, this part over here is another venturi on your the opposite side. But yep, that's what the unit looks like when you have to take it out. Next is their N54 bucketed fuel pump upgrade. This DIY, do it all yourself. They have a modified venturi. On a stock car, your venturi can be a bit of a bottleneck for your fuel system, your fuel flow. So they modified there so it flows better. The whole bucket's been modified to accept dual Walbro 455s. Got to do a little bit of modification to your Walbros to get everything to work. On mine, I'm going to be running a fuel return bulkhead that'll have to be drilled in the top hat here. As you can see, I already started a little bit of modifying. With their kit, you have to cut the top nipples off of the fuel pump, and then use this piece here to make threads, and then these will thread onto both of the fuel pumps. All right, so to start this job off, first thing you want to make sure you have is a nice pair of wire cutters and strippers. First thing you want to do is cut the plug connector off of the pump. And then you want to strip them. Make sure you leave enough on the end to still use. Then once you got your wires nice and stripped, you want to come to your pump, the discharge nipple here. There's two little ridges that should be here. You want to take a fine-tooth saw of some sort, somewhere to cut, and you want to cut at the lowest ridge. Try and make sure it's flat as possible. And do that on both the pumps. I'll try and put a picture up of what they looked like before. After you cut them off, you'll have this piece inside the bag, and what this does is it creates threads here on this nipple. So you want to put it on here, press down firmly, use your drill. I'm using a 13 mil bit. Start slow. Try and keep it straight as possible. I find the best way to do it is to drill it down, and it's gonna go
You know, it's gonna stop on you a little bit, back it out, then drill it back down a little bit further, then back it out until you get down to about the bottom where it lines up with this white piece here. You don't want to go any further than that. And when you get done, it should look like this. Threaded, and then as you can see, this piece here will thread on. Once you get both of your pipes threaded, you want to make sure you know which one is your primary and your secondary. Your primary pump, you want to put this connector here on. Your secondary, you want to put this piece on here with these brass screws. Pumps have to be, the ports have to be orientated a specific way. Try and get a better picture once I put the holding bracket on there. Get your connectors on there. As you see, one wire is red, the other is black, and on your pump, red and black. So you want to make sure you make the black wire with the black wire. Stick it in there as far as you can. Take your wire pliers, crimp it. Give it a little tug, make sure it's crimped. Go to your second one. Stick it in there as far as you can. Make sure it's crimped. Then take your heat gun and you heat up the wiring. You don't want to overdo it because you can mess up the wiring and melt some stuff. That would be bad. So do it until you see the loose plastic pieces have laid down. The connector should go from looking like this to looking like this. After you've done the primary, then you can start in on the secondary. All right, here comes the fun part. Trying to fit all of this in here. As far as your top hats, you want to make sure they look like that. Make sure everything looks right. Make sure your plastic on there looks like it's sealed properly. Don't want any fuel backing up in there. So I'm gonna stop the video because I don't want to sit here and let y'all watch me struggle get this thing in this bucket here. So I'll try and myself and see whatever pointers I can come up with. Well, after some wrestling and some fighting, wasn't too bad. I was able to get it in there. You just have to kind of squeeze the bucket a little bit. Soft plastic, so don't squeeze it too much, but as long as you get it past all of these, the black pieces here, this piece here is for your fuel level sensor. Plug that in. So try not to break any of the black stuff. Once you get it in there, you'll have this long tube. One end, the 90-degree end goes in your main pump, and 45-degree goes in your secondary. And you're almost ready. Next job is the drilling for your secondary pump control. And since I'm running external fuel, had to get a stepped drill bit, and I'm gonna try and get it down in here.
All right, as you can see here, I got the whole unit together and I ran into a few hiccups. And first thing I wanted to mention was how the top hat has to be orientated so that you can put your top on and it can compress. Oh, I guess it would help if I put it on there the right way, huh? You want it to be able to compress all the way down. So when you put it in there, you want to make sure all these wires and everything are out of the way. And it'll go down as far as possible. This should be enough. As you can see, my fuel return is bumping into the top hat, but that shouldn't affect it when I put it in there. I guess we'll find out. The hiccup that I ran into is this corrugated fuel tubing. This isn't the one that they sent. This is one that came with one of my fuel pumps. I think this is about 7 inches. The one that they sent with the 2 fittings on it, theirs was about 10, a little under 10 inches, I think. And I couldn't get it to go on there and have it turn the right, have these top hats turn the right way. So what I did is I went to radium.com and got my own corrugated fuel line. This one's about 12 inches, 3/8 internal diameter. Maybe if you get this kit, you'll be able to put it on there without having to do this, but I'd rather not deal with the headache. This part doesn't go on until you put the bucket and everything inside. And then, of course, one end goes here and the other end goes on there.
Smoke some, bitch.